Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jonathan Ailshire. I'm an Associate Director of Admission here at Boston University. And I'm so thrilled you've logged in to watch this virtual event tonight. We have two students with me that are both transfers at Boston University, and I'll have them join. We know you have lots of questions. I want to hear those questions, and they'll start to answer from their own experience. But I wanted to begin with just a brief introduction, an overview of the BU community, and then a look at the admissions process. So probably the first 10 minutes really kind of framing how to apply and what it looks like to be a transfer student. Keep your questions coming, and then we'll dive into those in just about 10 minutes. In one sentence, Boston University is a large, private, urban teaching and research university. And those adjectives are relatively generic, but I think that's a great intro to the university. Large, we have about 16,000 undergraduate students. Once they come here, they're studying over 300 majors across 10 undergraduate schools and colleges. So there's a lot of different opportunities and places for you to direct your application. You can major and minor across schools and colleges. So while you'll direct your application to one college and one major specifically, you have those options to take classes around the university, get to know faculty in different departments, add on a minor, or potentially even add on a second major. But even though we're large by academic offerings and size of the student body, I think we look smaller when you start to think about the classroom dynamics. So the average class size at BU is 27. And about 80% of the classes that we taught last year were 50 students or less. So the small class size really is the norm for us. Of course, that means some of the classes are larger. About 4% of the courses that we teach are 100 students or more. So there are some of those large lectures in the mix, but we always break them down into discussion groups once a week of 25 students. So even in the larger lecture setting, you still have that smaller environment to come together, ask more questions, engage with the material, or review for the test, or work on the project, whatever it is that's going on in the life of the course that particular week. And then the faculty are teaching every class that you'll take at Boston University. So from the Intro 101, if you need to take that class in a particular area, all the way through the final class that you take before graduation, it will always be led by some type of a professor here. And they really are some of the top scholars, researchers, and experts in their discipline. I think that's a really fantastic way to dive further into the academics at BU, is to pull up the major that you're sending your application to, look at the list of faculty, and just Google some of their names. And you'll see the books they've written, the research they've worked on, the areas they've been interviewed in terms of their expertise. And you'll see that strength of faculty, knowing that's who you meet here, and that's who's teaching the classes at BU. Moving forward to the admissions process. So looking at last year, there's an entry group of transfer students in January and an entry group of transfer students in September. I've put the numbers up on the screen. I'm going to focus on September since that's likely what all of you are thinking about this coming fall. Last year, we had about 4,300 applications. And our goal was to enroll just under 700 transfer students. And I think that's a really important number to remember, because what that means is you're not one of 10 transfer students coming here. There is a large and robust transfer community here at BU. It's an institution that understands what those needs are from the enrollment phase, right? Going through credit evaluations, matching with advisors, having a very specific transfer orientation. You're not lumped in with just first year or freshman orientation. It's specific to transfers, and then what that pathway will look like for the remainder of your time at BU. Typically, competitive candidates for us are students that have a cumulative college GPA of a 3.0 or higher. That's not the floor, that's just kind of the average of where students start to become very competitive. To dive in a little bit more detail to the application process, these are the required components that you can see in front of you. So the very first, the common application. If you haven't started it yet, go ahead, create that account. You'll notice it looks very different than the common application if you applied as a freshman. It's formatted differently. The essays are a little bit different. Instead of the freshman process, talk about something that changed your opinion or a really significant event. In the transfer application, we're really just trying to understand what is your reason, what is your motivation for transferring. So that's kind of the first generic essay that we'll ask. And then we'll follow up with a short response, 250 words or less, essentially what most excites you about Boston University. So asking a little bit more specifically, what is it about this place that's driving your application? And we will then require college transcripts from every institution that you've been taking classes from since you graduated high school or earned your GED or high school equivalency. So even if your current institution took your last transcript and gave you credits for it, we still need that original transcript from the first institution. And I think that's something that's really exciting about transfer students at BU. Everyone has a different pathway. Some students have just been at one institution and they transfer after a year. Others might have been at 2 or 3 previous institutions, or they took a break between some of their academic work, and they're coming from community colleges, from public colleges, from private colleges, from the Northeast, from all around the US, and from all around the world as well. So we really see transfer students with a lot of different pathways, and understanding all of those transcripts is a really important part of us knowing who you are from the academic side. Next, you'll see that we require the final high school transcript with proof of graduation or the GED or high school equivalency. So however it is that you earned that high school degree. In terms of the influence your high school transcript has on the admissions process, it does vary a little bit based on your current path in college. So if you're currently in your first semester of college this spring, that high school transcript is going to carry a lot of weight in the review process because we don't yet have college grades to be factoring in. If you're in your second semester or later of college work, really the majority of our decision is based on your college transcript, because that's what is going to be predictive of how you'll be successful at BU, not a high school transcript that may be several years old at this point. So we really do lean to the college transcript. One of the reasons we may need to go back to a high school transcript, even if it's not your first semester, might be for a specific course. So for example, our College of Engineering and our Questrom School of Business, both of those require that you've taken calculus. And so if we don't see that on a college transcript, we would go back to the high school transcript to confirm you've taken calculus at that point. The fourth bullet point, transfer college report, we need this from every institution where you've been a degree-seeking candidate. And sometimes this is completed by a registrar, a dean of students, judicial affairs, maybe an academic advisor. Every institution's a little bit different in terms of who completes the form, but essentially it's just letting us know you're in good academic standing, you would be eligible to re-enroll at that institution, and if there are any discipline infractions at a college, it just explains to us what those are, in addition to your own explanation on the application. For international students or for anyone for whom English isn't their first language, we will require the TOEFL or IELTS exam. I've listed the TOEFL minimum, typically a 90 to 100 with at least 20 points per section. And then finally, if you're applying to the College of Fine Arts, so theater, music, visual arts, we will require an audition or portfolio for consideration into those programs. And one of the things you do not see listed on this are SAT or ACT scores. We do not use those in the transfer review process. Your college transcript is the best indicator of your success at BU, rather than test scores that at this point are based on who you were 2, 3, or maybe more years ago. So we really are just relying on the college transcripts for the most part for that academic understanding. In terms of deadlines, you're likely aware the deadline is on the horizon here. For the fall term, it's due March 1st. This is also the deadline for need-based financial aid. At Boston University, we require both the FAFSA and the CSS profile to be considered for institutional grants, and then the federal aid that would come along with those with demonstrated needs. So all three of those, your application, the FAFSA, and CSS profile would be due on March 1 if you would like to be considered for need-based aid. Otherwise, just the admissions application on March 1. We do have one large merit scholarship opportunity for students attending community college and that are members of the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society. It's the Honor Society at community colleges. It is a 2-year, $20,000 merit scholarship. You need to be nominated by your PTK chapter advisor. We've sent that information out. If they're unfamiliar with it, pull up the information on our website. You can share that with your chapter advisor, and they can complete the nomination process. It's an online form that they'll submit. You don't need to do anything on your application. As long as you apply by March 1, we get that nomination from your advisor by March 1. We'll match those together and consider you for the PTK scholarship. You do need to be basically entering BU as a junior, so that means having 60 transferable credits. The scholarship would go then across junior and senior year. There's a few additional scholarships beyond the PTK. Those are all listed more in depth on the admissions webpage. All right, and then credit evaluations. And we'll talk about this again when I have the current students that are joining me in just a minute. But quickly, the process of this. You need to submit a course syllabi for every class that you would like to earn transfer credit for. I would really encourage you, as soon as you know you're applying to BU, start sending us those course syllabi. And the reason is when we're going through the admissions process and through admissions committee, we'll determine that we're going to admit someone. It might be a week or two before we're releasing transfer decisions, but that lets the registrar start working on your credit evaluation a little bit earlier. So the quicker that we have those syllabi on file, the easier that transfer credit process will begin to unfold. You can see there's an email address here. It's, of course, all over our website as well. You can just email those as PDF attachments to credeval@bu.edu. And additionally, there's also a really great resource called the Transfer Equivalency Site. Just Google BUTES, and that'll take you right there. You can pull up your current institution or prior institution, and you can see all of the credit that we've given previous transfer students from that particular institution. By no means is it comprehensive of all of the classes that you could have taken at that school. It's purely a list of classes previously evaluated by the registrar. But that can be maybe a nice guide in terms of, okay, my first year courses are counting as first year courses at BU, or I'm on a quarter system, how does that translate into BU's semester system? So to help you kind of see roughly what that will look like in terms of your credit coming into Boston University. But again, I'll ask Kim and Channing, who are two students that are joining me in just a minute, more about their credit evaluation process. But I guess with that, why don't I go ahead and have them join me here on screen. So Kim and Channing, come on over. I can see there have been a lot of questions that have been asked already. And just as I start reading through those, maybe what I'll ask to start, and Kim, we can start with you, is just if you could introduce yourself to us, let us know who you are, maybe when you transferred to BU, what stage were you in your college process, and then what type of an institution were you at before you enrolled at Boston University?
Yeah, so I'm Kim. I am a junior here at BU. I'm studying psychology. I transferred in the fall of 2017 as a sophomore, and I transferred from a medium public institution in Massachusetts.
Okay, I'm Channing. I am currently studying advertising in the College of Communications with a minor in sociology in the College of Arts and Science. I transferred from a small, also urban school in a city, so.
Awesome.
4-year private.
Okay. Why don't we, one of the first questions I saw was about kind of coming to a large urban institution. And Channing, maybe I'll start with you. You were at a smaller institution previously. What was that like to make the transition from a smaller school to a large school in Boston?
So that was something I was actually a little bit worried about. I went to a really small high school, so it was something that I was really used to, and that's why I thought at first I wanted to go to a smaller university. But I realized that I loved living in a city, but I just wanted something bigger, like an actual college campus environment where there's a lot of students. So the transition was actually really great because I knew that it was exactly what I was looking for. So I'm really happy to still be in a city, but also really fortunate that there's a lot of students on campus as well.
And Kim, you were in school in Massachusetts before, but what has it been like to kind of move to this part of Boston and kind of be a member of not only the BU community, but the city community in this way?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about coming to BU. The school that I went to before was actually a commuter school, so I would just go in the morning, go to class, and then go home or go to work. So for me, one of the best parts about transitioning to BU was being able to be on campus and in the city, so kind of getting the best of both worlds, where it's super easy to go into Boston and do other things, but then when you're at BU, it still feels like you're at BU.
And we just had someone ask about a car on campus. I'm assuming I'll probably get the same answer from both of you. Do you need a car?
No.
Okay. So what's it like to connect it in the city? Is it easy to get out into Boston, and how do you all do that?
Yeah, I find it very easy. I take the T or Uber wherever I'm going, but I also walk a lot of places because Boston is pretty walkable, especially around the area that the university's in. So I haven't had any problems. I wouldn't want a car on campus personally, just because I think it would be crazy getting around, and it's a city. It's like driving in a city, and it's not something I think I would be very good at.
We had a question about kind of the transition to BU in terms of that community. How do you make friends? How do you connect with people? And I think this is a really important question. For a lot of you, this might be the first time you're moving to a new institution if you've been at your current school since high school. So Kim or Channing, it doesn't matter who wants to start, but just what has that been like for you? How did you make friends? How did you meet people? What kind of a community have you built for yourself here on campus?
So for me, making friends, I was randomly assigned roommates, and they actually became my best friends here at BU. I still live with them this year. So that was really nice for me because I met them right away. They showed me where everything was. They also introduced me to their friends, so I kind of became a part of their friend group from the beginning. And then beyond that, once I got my bearings, I made a lot of friends in my classes that I still talk to. So I had a really good social transition to BU.
For me personally, I thought it was going to be a lot easier to kind of just integrate myself into BU, but most of my friends are transfer students. So I actually met my roommate on the BU Facebook page, and so I officially met her at orientation, where I was able to meet a lot of other transfer students. And so my friend group is mostly transfers, but I've been looking for other ways to kind of expand my friend group. So I recently just joined a sorority, so I'm hoping that makes it a little bit easier to meet other people that aren't just transfers. But I absolutely love my transfer friends, and I'm so happy to have them.
And Kim, you and I were talking before we started the broadcast tonight that you've been kind of a part of this new program for transfers and kind of helping to think about that transition. Will you tell us a little bit about what the structure of that is and what kind of the hope for that program is?
Yeah, so the program is called Transition to BU. It's brand new, starting this year, and basically what the goal of it was to connect new and kind of old transfer students to build a community. So one of the main parts of it is matching new transfer students with a transfer student who's already here, a mentor-mentee program. So you kind of have a point of contact to go to with any questions, academically, socially. We kind of send out a survey to people. Are you looking for more of a friend or a mentor? All sorts of different things. And then beyond the mentorship, we host events once or twice a month, ranging from social events, like we had stress relief and a holiday party and Friendsgiving, to a registration event where people could come and learn about the registration process for the next semester and everything like that. So it's been going really well, and there's a Facebook page and everything for it. So
cool. And hopefully continuing into next year?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So something that you all could be a part of. Another aspect of transition is around credit evaluations. And someone was asking, are credit evaluations fair? What was your all's process like in terms of bringing credit from your prior institution? Do you feel like you got the appropriate credit for it? And is there any advice that you have to offer someone that's thinking about transferring to BU about that credit process?
So for me personally, I actually got very lucky. This doesn't go for all transfer students, but I actually have more credits at Boston University than I would have if I had stayed at my previous university, which is I'm so lucky for that. So even though there were some classes that didn't necessarily get evaluated equally, BU has been really helpful at making sure that I have all of the credits that I need to graduate on time, and also being in touch with my previous university to make sure that I really did take these classes, things like that, and making sure that I do get credit for them. So I've been really fortunate, and I'm really lucky that my whole process worked out so well.
For me, I used the online website for the transfer credits where you could kind of see what was going where. I had a few classes that I had some problems with. They didn't go in the way that I was hoping that they would go, so I kind of had to email back and forth with the registrar and resubmit syllabi or submit a class description. Ultimately, I got credit for the classes where I wanted them, And my advisor was also really helpful in that process. So she was able to kind of go in and be like, okay, you took this. So yeah, I got credit for everything. But sometimes you have to work a little bit harder for some credits to go where you want them to.
Yeah, I think that's an important takeaway, is that, the registrar is evaluating courses from institutions all over the country, and that maybe you know what classes you've taken, you know the content that's been covered there, and sometimes you do work with them to say, no, actually, I think this class might be a better fit for this type of a BU class. And Shannon, you were actually telling me earlier about one particular class you had at your prior institution. Will you just share that story?
Sure,
with
yeah.
everyone?
So there's a language requirement at Boston University where you have to take 4 semesters of a particular language, and I had completed that at my previous university, and so they gave me credit for the class, but they said that it wouldn't complete the language requirement. So I actually was meeting with someone that evaluates the credits, and she called my previous university while I was sitting there to make sure that it actually did have like the same equivalency at BU. And so that was pretty awesome because I just saw how quickly they were able to turn things over, and like, they actually want students to get credit for all their classes. So it was really nice.
Cool. And part of earning credit from your previous institution is kind of the question of your graduation plan. Are both of you on track to what you thought would be your graduation time? Did transfer and slow you down, or did it speed you up? What has that looked like for each of you?
Well, for me personally, I was really worried about this because my parents would be absolutely upset, like, if I did not graduate in 4 years, and I will be. And I've changed my major also, so that was also another worry. But currently, I'm on track to graduate in 4 years. I could even graduate early if I didn't choose to take a minor. So we're all set.
What about for you guys?
Yeah, that's the same with me. Graduating in 4 years, and I changed my major. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Since you both just brought up changing your major, let's dig into that just a little bit. Shannon, you've actually changed across schools and colleges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is that process like to move from, maybe tell us where you started and then where you landed?
So I started in the College of Arts and Sciences as a linguistics major, and now I'm in the College of Communications doing advertising. So it's actually really easy to switch colleges at Boston University. It's not difficult at all. I know a ton of people that have done it. It's basically just signing a form saying this is what you want to do and taking the classes that are required to be in that particular college. So I haven't had any problems.
And Kim, you changed majors within College of Arts and Sciences. So you didn't change colleges. And someone actually, I think, just hit on the psychology part of your background. What's your favorite thing of being a psychology major?
So my favorite thing about being a psychology major is because the program is so big, there's a lot of different directions you can take it. So my roommate and I are actually both psychology majors, and she is going down the path. She wants to be like a school counselor type of thing. So she takes a lot more of the like psych in the family and developmental psychology type of classes. And I'm a little bit more on the neuroscience route. So I am currently in drugs and behavior, and then you take physiological psychology, things like that. So I really like it because you can be a psychology major and do so much within that. It's not just one clear path. Also, the psychology advisors are amazing, and the head of the psychology department emails you like pretty much every day with internship opportunities, research opportunities, everything like that. So they make sure that the information gets to you.
Speaking of the faculty, someone a little bit earlier just kind of asked about professors. Do you have a favorite professor, or maybe one that you've connected with? I know you've each been here different amounts of time. Kim, you've had kind of a year and a half plus. Shannon, you're just in semester 2. But what has that been like to meet faculty or take the classes with them?
Yeah, so I was actually really surprised by this. Seeing as BU is so big, I was kind of not expecting to really get to know my professors when I came in, but that's really not the case. I've formed great relationships with a handful of mine, and one of them, my Spanish professor, this is my 3rd semester taking class with her, so I love her. I go to her office hours, and Spanish was one of those things I originally was just kind of taking it because I had to take my language requirement. I was like, okay, I'll do Spanish. I've taken Spanish before, and then I met this professor, and it's actually been one of my favorite classes that I've had here. So.
Last semester, I took a class called Language and the Law, and it just so happened that it was taught by my advisor, who is a linguistics professor. And it was a really small class, actually. It was only about 9 people, which was really awesome because we were able to have really good discussions in the class, and it was really hands-on. So I really enjoyed that, and she was a really great professor.
Awesome. There was a question about the Honors College. That's one program that's not available to transfer students. It has a lot of coursework that's done in the first year, so it's just not a good fit to join that program later on. But in terms of kind of the life on campus, we've had questions about dorms and food. So let's start with food, just because I'm hungry right now. So what do you guys think of food on campus? What are the dining halls like? What does that experience look like?
My favorite dining hall is Marciano Commons. It's 2 stories. I consider myself a rather picky eater, but there's always something there for me. If you're vegan, if you're gluten-free, there's also options like that. I always go straight for the dessert, but it's definitely one of the best dining halls I've ever been to, especially since my previous university's food was not very good. So I'm very happy to actually have a meal plan, and I don't mind going to the dining hall, whereas some people would rather have a kitchen. I'm completely fine with having the dining hall food. So.
Yeah, so this year I have an apartment, so I do more of my own cooking, but I actually still have a little bit of meal plan money on my student ID for in between classes. If I want to go grab something, I totally can. Last semester I was fully on the meal plan, and the food is good here. I'm also a picky eater as well, so all my friends will attest to that. And I was always able to find something to eat. And there's just such a variety. So if you're worried about variety or different diets, there's something for everybody in the dining halls. And they're also open a lot. The hours are pretty good. So.
And there's late night food also, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And Ken, you mentioned you're in an apartment. That's a BU apartment, right?
Yes, an on-campus BU apartment.
Okay. And with dorms, housing is guaranteed for transfer students. And both of you have lived on campus your entire time at BU. Do you have any recommendations for students? What do you wish you had been told about housing, or what's the best place for a sophomore transfer or junior transfer to live?
Well, I currently live in a brownstone on Bay State Road. It wasn't necessarily exactly what I requested, but I'm really happy with it. We have a really great view of the Charles River in the city, so it makes it worth it. But there's, I think, different parts of campus for everyone. There's parts of campus that are considered to be a little bit more social, so if that's something you're interested in, that's definitely something to look for. The part of campus that I live in is closer to all my classes, which has been really nice because this is my first time experiencing a Boston winter, and so I didn't really know what that was going to be like. But when it's snowing or the weather's super cold, it's really easy for me to get to my classes, which I really like. But I'm planning to live in a different area of campus next year. So I think it really just depends on the person and what you're looking for. But there's so much variety if you like dorm style, if you like apartment style. It's really up to you.
Yeah, for me, I live in a brownstone in South Campus, so it's kind of more towards Brookline, Fenway area. I love it. I really like how it kind of feels like you're going home to your own place, but you're still on campus. I wasn't really interested in the communal bathroom situation when I was transferring, so all of my top picks were suite style, I think, when I filled out the housing thing. So I was ultimately placed in South, and I really like it. But as she was saying, there's just different parts of campus for what you want to do. I know a lot of athletes will live in the western portion of campus because that's where the gym is and where their practice is in the morning, so they live there. Where I live, it's a lot closer to classes, which is just nice when it's cold or early or raining, snowing.
All the different
anything.
Yeah. So it sounds like what I'm hearing from both of you is that there's a lot of different options, and it just kind of depends what priority list a new student has in terms of what is best. One of the things that's talked about a lot is kind of the diversity of the student body at Boston University. And I'm wondering, what do each of you kind of think about BU in this regard? Do you view this as a diverse place? What does that look like for you? If you had any particular experiences that are helpful to share?
Yeah, so my high school was a boarding school, and so there was a lot of international students there. So that was something that I was very used to. And coming to Boston University, it's just the same way. I live in a triple, so actually in first semester I kept getting a different roommate for one of the positions like in our room, and we had an international Japanese student that was actually here just to learn the English language. So that was really interesting. And then we also had another roommate that was from Abu Dhabi. So that was also really great, just to get different perspectives on, places I've never been and meeting people that I wouldn't usually cross paths with. So.
Yeah, so I am from the South Shore of Massachusetts, so not super far away. Everybody from my high school was kind of relatively in the same position I was, so coming here, it's definitely a diverse place. And one of the things that I found is just how many resources that they have. We have the Howard Thurman Center on campus, which they do a lot of events surrounding diversity, and one of the things it's coffee and conversations. It's at 3:30 on Fridays. And I love to go to that as often as I can. You just learn so much about just the people around you. And then in Boston as well, they have a lot of events do that. So.
And the Howard Thurman Center is also in the midst of a big expansion. They're about to move into, next fall, they'll move into really fancy kind of new digs at BU. So they'll have even more expanded programming next year. In terms of things outside of class and outside of that diverse student body, I know there's about 500 different clubs and organizations at BU. Have you all connected with any clubs or organizations? Shannon, I know you mentioned earlier you've joined a sorority just this week, I think.
Yeah,
so,
it literally was
new.
just yesterday, basically. I'm also involved in being a tour guide on campus, so I give tours, and I'm also a student admissions representative in admissions. So that was something that I was really interested in doing because I wanted to meet new people that had already been at BU, and that's been really easy for me because I'm working with like 30 other BU students in admissions every day. So I've really enjoyed that. I also joined Spoon University, so they have their own chapter at BU, and it's basically, if you don't know what it is, it's like food blogging, and I'm a total foodie, so I love that. And so I've been doing social media for them.
So that gives even more credence to your comments on dining hall then.
Yeah.
That you're food blogging
Yes,
and consider yourself a foodie. What about for you, Ken?
Yeah, so I am a tour guide here at BU. I was a tour guide at my high school, so it was something that I was really interested in getting involved in here. So my first semester I applied and became a tour guide. I've met a lot of people through that because they host like a lot of events and like holiday parties and stuff like that that you can go to outside of touring. And then besides that, this year I really focused on the Transition to BU club that was mentioned earlier. I am the program coordinator, so I do a lot of the events for that.
Great. Looking back a little bit more at the faculty, someone was asking, are professors accessible? Do they have office hours? Can you email them? Can you get in touch with them? Or is it just they give a lecture and they go away? What have you found with BU faculty in your experience?
You can get in touch with them. A lot of them most of them will have a rule where they'll answer like within 24 hours. I find that it's usually well within that. Usually a couple hours is when my professors will email me. They all give an email. Some of them give you their cell phone numbers, so if you really need to reach them, you can. So yeah, they're really accessible, and they all hold office hours. I also had a professor my first semester. I couldn't make his office hours, and we set up a time outside of his normal schedule where like I would go to his office Mondays at 4 because I couldn't go during his scheduled office hours. So that was really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I had a class last semester that was a little bit difficult for me, and I would go to my professor's office hours every single Tuesday, so he kind of knew that I was just going to show up. But he was very accessible. I answered all my questions, super helpful. I was really grateful that he had office hours because without meeting with him, I don't think I would have gained what I needed just by listening to him in lectures.
I mentioned at the very beginning, and I know not all of you heard it, but I said, this is a teaching and research university, and the faculty really are experts and scholars in their field. Google their names, see the books, everything like that. But don't let that make it intimidating to go and meet with them. They are at this university because they also want to teach undergraduates. They're here for both of those, the pursuit of their research and their scholarly passions, but also that discipline and study of working with undergraduates and teaching the classes here at BU. In terms of thinking about classes, are there tutoring opportunities or areas to go if maybe you're struggling in a class? Do either of you know about those resources around campus?
So aside from office hours, there's actually a center on campus where you can go and be tutored by a previous student that's taken the class. So last semester, my roommate was in organic chemistry, and she would go meet with this other student that had previously taken the class, I think every Friday, and they would go over tests, and they'd go over homework, and they'd figure out together how she could improve in the class. So that's really helpful.
Yeah, I am taking math this semester to finish up my math requirement, and I'm not really a math person, so there's a math and science tutoring center in the math department, and they have their hours listed on a website, and it'll tell you like who's tutoring during that time, so you can go to the math resource center to kind of get another person's take on the material.
And we had I think, really important question for students that are looking at BU and doing that through the virtual lens, which is, what was your experience kind of physically with campus before you came? Did you come for a tour? Did you come over the summer? Did you come for an open house? Like, how did you learn about BU? Or did you just show up for classes day one and that's when you learned about BU?
So the first time that I came to Boston was to tour BU, and the second time I came to Boston was to be a student at BU. So I really came in not knowing the city at all and not really knowing the campus. So I kind of figured it out as I went along, but being a tour guide helped me a lot because I got trained basically on where all the buildings were, and I had no idea before. So that's been really helpful. But now that I've been here for a few months, I feel so much better. I know where everything is. But at first I was definitely a little bit confused, especially coming from a university that was incredibly smaller. This campus is, it's not that confusing, but it can be a little bit confusing at first.
Yeah, being a tour guide is really helpful. You make friends and you get the whole map of BU like right off the bat. So that was nice. I went to a transfer student info session. They had like an in-person transfer info session. So I went to one of those, and then after I got accepted, I went to the transfer students accepted students day, where I like took a tour of BU, and you could talk to like people from different departments and all sorts of things like that. I'm also from Massachusetts, so I knew Boston pretty well. So when I came, I was like specifically looking at the feeling that I got from BU.
And you mentioned, campus can sometimes be confusing. I think one of the big differences is some college campuses, the buildings are named and it's maybe spread out in a different way. BU is really kind of a rectangle. A lot of buildings are just named by addresses. So when I was telling Kim and Channing where to meet me tonight, like I didn't give the name of the building, I just gave an address. But it also means you can like pull up Google Maps on your phone and navigate around campus. And how long do you guys think it takes to walk maybe from one end to the other end of campus?
Okay.
I'd say if
in
you're in a rush, yeah, you can do it in 15 minutes.
Some people like to say it takes a lot longer, but I personally think that it only takes 15 minutes. I walk from the eastern portion to the western portion a lot, and it's definitely doable in 15.
Yeah.
That's my final answer.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised how fast you walk when it's cold.
Oh yeah,
You can get anywhere. Yeah, I'd say 15. It's like pretty flat. There's like not really hills. I know that some campuses have a lot of hills, no hills.
It's also pretty rare that you would be going from the furthest western portion to the furthest eastern portion. Those tend to be kind of residential, more the academics pull to the middle. So you might be walking half of the campus pretty frequently, but probably not that full length every day or something like that, unless you're going to visit a friend in a different residence hall. There was a question about safety. Do the two of you feel safe on campus? Do you feel safe with the community in terms of where you live?
Yeah, I've never had any issues with safety on campus. I mean, there's the typical, like we have the blue lights and all that stuff. There's also the BU police department, which is on campus. That's our own police department. And then there's also a number on the back of your student ID that you can call if you ever like don't want to walk home. You can call the number, but I've never used any of them.
Yeah, it's called the Scarlet Safe Walk, and 2 students, a male and a female, will come and they'll take you to wherever you're trying to go if you feel unsafe at night. But this is something that I always say to like prospective students and families is I work at the hockey arena, which is a Ganis Arena, which is like in the western part, and I live in the eastern part of campus, and sometimes the hockey games don't get out until like 11:30, so sometimes I'm walking really late at night alone. I always try not to, but even then I've never felt unsafe, so I haven't had to ever call the BUPD or the Scarlet Safe Walk, but it's definitely really great that we have those options on campus if you ever need them.
We talked a little bit earlier about diversity, and someone followed up asking about LGBTQ life on campus, and specifically about kind of pronouns. And I'm just curious, do you all think that this is a welcoming environment for LGBTQ individuals, and any kind of insight on that community?
Yeah, I definitely think it is. A lot of professors at the beginning of class, like on the first day, they'll give their pronouns, and then they'll say like they'll either, some of them pass something out, some of them say email me, where you can give like your name, a little bit about you, and your own pronouns. So yeah. There's
every type of person at BU, so I've never ran into anybody that I've seen being disrespectful or anything like that. I think it's a very welcoming place.
And Channing, just a minute ago, you talked about working at a Ganis Arena. Someone just followed up with a question about school spirit, and even threw in like the hockey reference. Yeah. So maybe I'll start with you. What are hockey games like at BU, and then just broadly, what is school spirit like here?
Yeah, so the first hockey game I ever attended was a BU hockey game. I'm not really a sports person, so I actually, when I toured campus that night, I went to a hockey game, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious because I loved when they were like fighting each other. I just thought it was so entertaining. So coming to BU, I knew that was something that I was interested in. And so at the beginning of last semester, I decided to apply for a job there. And so I sometimes get to see the game, sometimes don't, because I'm working there, but it's really fun. We also just had the Bean Pot, which is 4 Boston schools in the area competing for like the Bean Pot champion title, which is held at TD Garden. So me and my roommate actually went together because we both work at the hockey arena together, and we don't always get to see the games, and this was like our chance to like actually like be in the crowd and like enjoy it. So yeah, hockey games are really fun. The BU band plays, and all the students sing along, so I really enjoy them.
And the BU women's team won the BU.
Oh yeah, they did. So, that was awesome. Yeah.
And Kim, what do you think about school spirit?
Yeah, that was something. A lot of my friends from high school went to big schools with like typically big football teams. So when I was going to BU, they were like, "Oh, is there like school spirit or sports?" So hockey's our main thing. I go to a lot of the hockey games. I have a sports pass, so I can just get right in, and there's definitely school spirit, lots of cheering, back and forth with the other fan sections, and everybody wears BU stuff. People have flags. So.
Do either of you have favorite BU traditions that you've experienced so far?
Lobster night is.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to explain what that is?
Lobster night it's the first week of classes in September. BU has 1 lobster per student at the university. You go into the dining hall, or sometimes it's on Nickerson Field. I think it kind of depends. And you get a wristband, and then everybody gets a lobster and like corn,
potatoes.
And potatoes. I don't even really like lobster, but I go to lobster night because it's like so fun. Everybody goes.
Another thing that I really like, especially as a transfer student, is Splash, which is held every fall on Nickerson Field, where all the student clubs and organizations basically have a table where you can come and sign up. So that was something that I attended like my first week at BU, just to get more involved and see really what the university has to offer. So for any new student, I think that's a really great opportunity. And even for returning students, just to see what else you can get involved in. So I really like that.
And Kim, you told me earlier that one of the things that drew you to BU were the research opportunities, and that's something you're at the very beginning stages of mapping out. What do you hope for that to look like? And maybe just kind of describing a little bit for everyone what the general research opportunities are for students here.
Yeah, so one of the things that BU has is the undergraduate research opportunity, which I heard about that on tour, and I thought it was really unique. So basically, in the very beginning stages, you can kind of pick when you would like to research and then kind of what area you want to go in. So I hooked up with a faculty member, one of my professors from last semester, and you write a research proposal and then you submit it, and you can do it like summer, fall, spring. It doesn't really matter, and then the faculty member kind of guides you through that.
Yeah, and I think there's about $1 million set aside for specifically for undergraduate research. Obviously, there's graduate students here as well, but that funding is just here for the undergraduate researchers.
And a lot of professors in class will tell you like what research opportunities they have. I've noticed, particularly in my psychology classes, a lot of the professors, when they're not teaching, have their own research studies in their labs. So like one of my professors right now, he has a lab at McLean Hospital, and he does research on addiction, and a lot of times they're looking for students in their classes to participate in that. So.
And another one of the BU experiences that's available to all students is study abroad. And Shannon, you said you were thinking that might be something that you're looking to do.
Yeah,
in the future?
I'm definitely interested in it. I think I'm looking at it for more during the summer, just because, like I said, I do want to graduate on time, and the summer can't hurt you at all. Whereas if I did it during the spring, I would be kind of missing out on other things. So I haven't really decided what I want to do. I was planning to actually do 2 classes and an internship through BU in LA this summer, but unfortunately I haven't taken the classes that I really need to do to take the courses this summer, but hopefully in the future. And I know a lot of students that do study abroad and have really good experiences with it, so it's definitely something that I think transfers might worry about that they're not going to be able to do, but it's totally open for everyone.
I think one of the most important things I've learned working with the transfer admission process is I've met with a lot of staff around campus, and I usually ask for them, like, can you tell me a story of when a transfer student did this or things like that? And most of them kind of stop and think, and then they're like, no, because I don't know how someone got here. I just know they're a BU student. So all of these opportunities that you're seeing for BU are here for you as a transfer student. And Kim is focused on research. Shannon is hoping to map and study abroad. So whatever it is you're looking to do with those BU programs, you can find the way to fit those in during your time at the university. We've talked a little bit about both of you have part-time jobs, and someone just asked, are there a lot of part-time jobs on campus? Is that easy to find those part-time jobs? What is that like?
Yeah, there's a whole website. Well, on the student link, you can go to the jobs, and then there's a part-time jobs section that's completely separate from work study, so you don't have to get work study to have one of those jobs. They can be on campus, off campus. You can kind of select what you're looking for, and there's tons of them.
Yeah, I've really liked being able to have a job on campus because I don't have to pay to commute anywhere, which is really nice. So, like I said, I work in the admissions office, and that's literally right down the street from where I live. So I walk out my door and I'm at work, which is super nice and convenient. And then working at the hockey arena is also super fun. It's just another way to get involved on campus. I don't really think of it as like a job. It's just like another thing that I do at BU. So.
And then there's a question about the student ID, BU ID. Mm-hmm. Does that give you access to different things around the city or discounts around the city? Does it do anything other than swipe you into dining halls in your dorm?
Yeah, you get into a lot of places for free with the student ID. Like a lot of the museums, I know the Museum of Fine Arts for sure with the student ID you can get into, and then also like a lot of stores around Boston, because there's so many colleges here, a lot of stores will give you like a little discount for being a student.
My roommate and I went to the Contemporary Art Museum, and we got in for free because we're BU students. And there's also sometimes restaurants in like the Prudential Center that if you show your school ID, you'll get a discount as well. So that's really nice. It's always nice to get a student discount. So.
And there's like places will have college nights too. So like the Museum of Science and stuff like that, they have college nights where you show your ID and you get in either for free or like significantly discounted.
I think it's important to know that being a student at a university in Boston means you have great access to the culture of Boston, and that student ID really is a great gateway to that. The Museum of Fine Arts, maybe like a 15-minute walk from campus
yeah,
or
it's
so.
not far. It's really close.
Yeah, so some of these, great museums of the country that are right here in Boston are just a few minutes away from our campus. Want to go back to kind of that transition of being a transfer student to BU and what that was like for each of you. If you were to give advice to the students that are watching, if all of them come to BU, what would you tell them is just the best piece of advice as a new transfer student to the university?
So mine would be, I know my first semester here was a lot harder academically than I thought it would be. And that's definitely okay. I went to my advisor all the time and I was like, oh my gosh. And she was like, you're fine. So just, reach out to professors if you need to, or go to the tutoring centers. There's a whole bunch of resources here to help you. And, it's totally normal for you to get here and have a little bit of a transition period academically. It is a challenging school. There's no doubt about it. So that's totally normal. And there are resources to help you with that.
I agree. And I met a lot of people through the transfer orientation in the summer, which was really helpful. So if you can attend that, I would definitely recommend to do that.
You're required to, so you'll be there.
Yeah. But there's specifically one that is for transfer students. So I think that was really helpful, and it gave me a different perspective on the university. It's where I was able to meet my roommate and some other friends that I have now. But most importantly, I think once you get here, it's just important to get involved if that's something you really want to do. If you want to make this the best experience possible, get involved, do things that'll help you meet people and branch out. So that's my greatest piece of advice.
We've mentioned transfer orientation a couple times in different ways. And I'm curious, did either of you do like a freshman orientation at your previous institutions?
I did. I didn't have a very great experience at my previous orientation, but my BU orientation was a million times better. It was super well organized, and immediately when I went to it, I felt so much better, and I felt like I made the right decision to come here, and it was just a really great experience overall. It made me really excited to move in the fall, so I liked it.
And did you feel like it was specific to your needs as a transfer student?
Yeah, so it was the specific transfer orientation, and they know that you've been to college or have some experience with college, so it's less about, oh, this is what college is going to be like, and more about fitting the needs of a transfer, or telling you more about what BU has to offer you. So I really liked that. I really appreciated it. So good experience.
And Kim, what was your experience with orientation?
Yeah, so at my old school, it was a commuter school, so our orientation was just basically like, here are your classes, here's like the parking lot type of thing. So it wasn't really like an orientation. So when I came to transfer orientation, I was super excited because you stay in the dorms on campus, so I thought that was super fun. And like she said, it really is, it's altered towards transfer student needs. Like the advisors that are there, they advise transfer students and stuff like that. So you really get a lot of questions answered. And it's much more as she was saying, they know that you've been to college. So there's a lot more time set out for specific questions that people might have as opposed to other stuff. But I also met friends at transfer orientation that I still have, so.
Awesome. And then one of the last questions I want to ask you all is, at some point you made a decision that the institution you were previously attending wasn't the best fit. You started looking at other schools. Why BU? Why did you look here? Why did you decide to enroll here as a student?
So for me, why BU was, I came here, I toured it. I loved how it was in a big city, so there was a lot of stuff you could do outside of BU, but also when I was on campus, I felt like I was at BU. So I know that a lot of times when people think big urban school in the middle of the city, you may not get that campusy feel. I felt like when I came to BU, yes, it was in Boston, but it's still BU. So I loved that. And then the research opportunities was another big reason that I chose to come here. And then they also had the hockey team sports school spirit aspect that I wanted.
Similar. So I knew that I wanted to be in a city. When I was applying to colleges the first time around, the only thing that I knew was that I wanted to be in a city. So having come from a smaller university, I realized that I loved the city environment, but I needed something bigger, and I wanted a place with more opportunities and a place where I would be able to grow a little bit more. And so I realized that BU had that. We do have 10 colleges within the university, which is really great. Like I said, I transferred from one to the another, so I'm really happy that I had that opportunity. There's so many majors. I think there's a place for everyone here. Like she does research. There's so many clubs and organizations you can join. I just feel like there's so many options, and I'm really grateful for that. And I saw that in BU, and I was like, okay, this is where I want to go. So I'm really happy that I transferred.
Awesome. Well, Kim and Channing, thank you so much for joining me and for sharing your insight with everyone that's joined us this evening. Just a few final reminders as we get close to wrapping up. The deadline for the fall start term for your application in need-based financial aid, again, is March 1st. Through the common application. If you have any questions about that application, give us a call, shoot us an email. We're happy to answer questions and make sure you know everything that it is to make that decision if BU is the right place for you. If you are not able to visit before you apply, that's great. There's a virtual tour online. You could come after you learn of an admissions decision, or maybe just take that leap and you show up at orientation and that's the first time on campus. So please do reach out to our office, admissions@bu.edu or 617-353-2300, and we'll always be happy to guide you through that process. But thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us, and have a great rest of your day.